Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining me. I'm going to continue our geometry unit, and we're really kind of wrapping things up with what we need to know for the task test pass to get your high school equivalency diploma. So we've worked on angles, triangles, Pythagorean theorem, similar triangles. Most recently, we talked about area and perimeter, which leads us, I'm pretty sure, to our last section in geometry that we're going to cover, and that is volume. Okay? The good thing is that volume is very closely related to area as far as what exactly it is. So if you remember in the last video when I talked about area, I talked that it's a measurement. It's a way to measure, or it's not a way, it is a measurement of two-dimensional space. So for instance, your wall or your floor or your yard, something that's flat. So volume is related in that it's a measurement of space, but it's three-dimensional space rather than two, okay? So some examples of volume in real life would be if you need to go and buy mulch. So you're not going to buy just a flat layer of mulch. You're going to buy it. It's got a third dimension. Okay, so it may be wide and high, but deep. So it's got three dimensions to it. So when we measure things in three dimensions, we call it volume. Okay, and so we're going to learn how to find the volume of different shapes. Again, there's formulas for those. The good news is when it comes to volume, the task test gives you most of those formulas. And we can actually find area formulas hidden in the volume formula. So I'm going to point that out as well as we start to go. So, so again, if you need mulch, you buy it in the cubic yards. Okay, so volume is always cubic units. Area is square, 2. Cubic is 3. All right, third power, cubed, 3 dimensions. So basically that's what volume is. How much does something hold? All right, and so again, we have different shapes, and let me just go ahead and share my screen so you can see. On the formula sheet, we were using this top section. Now, this is not the formula sheet from the actual task test. I'll find that and pull that up here in a few minutes. This is the one we were using for area. Notice the shapes and then the formulas. So if we go down, the bottom section is formulas for volume and surface area. Now, we're not really going to deal with surface area too much. I haven't really taught that before. Because it's not really one of the things that has been listed as a priority on the test, okay? Volume is definitely going to be on the test. I can guarantee you're going to have probably at least a couple volume problems, and they are so doable that you really got to get them right. And you can, you all can, I know you can. So let's take a look at the first one, a rectangular prism. All right, so a rectangular prism looks like a box. It's a rectangle, and then it has depth. Okay, it goes deep. So it's like a box. When you think of a rectangular prism, prism means three-dimensional shape. So a rectangular prism is a three-dimensional shape that is in the shape of a rectangle. Okay, so to find the volume of a rectangular prism, it's LWH, length times width times height. If you remember, finding the area of a rectangle is just length times width. Length times width. Now we're adding a third dimension of height since we're talking about volume. So length times width times height. Cylinder. This is a big one on the test, I know. Basically what a cylinder is, and I'm going to point this out when I come back to my big screen, but a cylinder is really just a circle, okay? If you think about a cylinder on either the top or the bottom, it's a circle that has been dragged down and given some height. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing we did with area, and we're going to find the area of the circle of either the top or the bottom of the cylinder, and then we're going to drag it times the number of the height. Okay? And I actually don't like this formula, BH, area base times height, because we have a better one. And I'm going to see if I can pull that up here in just a minute from the formula sheet. Pi r squared times height. We have a square pyramid, a right circular cone, or what we would just call a cone. So we have a pyramid, a cone, and then a sphere, which looks like a ball. So I'm going to go through each of these, and then we will do some practice problems. All right, so we're back. And I have found the formula sheet that you will use on the task test. So I'm just going to show you that, kind of scratch over that other one I was just showing you, and we'll take a look at this one instead. And really, I would like for you to refer to this often because you need to know how to use it. It's going to look exactly like this when you take the test, okay? Mathematics reference sheet. Notice the very first thing on the left are our volume formulas. Cylinder, pi r squared times height. Pyramid, 1/3 of the big B means area of the base. So 1/3 of the area of the base times the height. Cone is equal to 1/3 pi r squared times the height. And sphere is 4/3 times pi times r cubed. Okay, so you do not have to memorize these. They will be given there to you. Okay, I was just looking to see if there's anything else I should point out. Here's Pythagorean theorem, which is something we covered last week. Again, I told you then you did not have to memorize it. Here's where it is on the actual sheet. Let me zoom out a little. Here's what the sheet looks like completely. And you can see they don't give you a whole lot of stuff. And some of this we will get to at some point. Some of it we will not. Okay. But for right now, we're focusing on the volume formulas. Okay. So I'm going to come back, write these down. So cylinder, pi r squared times height. Pyramid. I suggest you write these down as well. 1/3 big B H. Cone and sphere. 1/3 pi r squared times height. 4/3 pi r to the third. Okay, so you should write those down, get used to seeing them. One thing that they don't give you is how to solve a cube or a rectangular prism, okay? Both of those they're really the same thing. It's just length times width times height. Length times width times height, all right? Take the three numbers and multiply them together, 3 dimensions. So they expect you to know that one. They do not expect you to memorize these 4. And I feel very strongly that these first 2 can be on there for sure, or will be on there. And so I want to do quite a bit of practice on those. Okay, so remember, volume is filling a 3-dimensional shape or space, measuring it. It's always listed in cubic units. All right, cubic feet, cubic inches, cubic meters, whatever. All right, so there's not much else to explain about what it is, just we need to do some practice problems, okay? Although I will take just a second and point out, and you're gonna hear me say this again, that when it comes to the pyramid, that big B is what tricks people. Because people see it and they think base, but base is always a little b. When it's a capital B, a large B, that stands for the area of the base. So when you look at the pyramid, you need to look at what shape is the base and find the area of that shape. Then multiply it times the height and divide by 3 or multiply by a third. Okay, you're going to see as I go through and work some of those out. So let's do some practice problems, okay? So hopefully you all have these formulas, refer back to them. Maybe each time you do a worksheet, especially, you know, if you go away and come back, write them down again. Because even though they're there on your formula sheet, the more you do them, the more comfortable you are with them. Just by writing them down, I think that the better you're gonna feel. So let's do some practice. I got quite a few worksheets to send you. There's this one, which is pretty good. I like it because it gives you a lot of word problems. So there's 5 packs, 5 pages, all word problems for volume. We're not going to start there. Let's see. These are pretty good. Again, I like this worksheet. It's straightforward, asking you for the volume of these different shapes. There's 18 pages, I think 9 different worksheets, because the second page is the answers. Okay. Third worksheet that I'm sending out is just it's a 2-pager, no answers, sorry, but plenty of practice on these main shapes. I'm going to try and send this one out. It's 22 pages long, so it's fairly large in size. I think it's like 10 megabytes, so I may have to send this in a separate email. But this is one of the packets that gives you a little bit of explanation. So they're going to kind of walk you through what volume is. They're calling them these solid figures, goes through each of these shapes, and just breaks it down, goes a little bit slower. Okay, so this is kind of the one that I would hand you out at the beginning of a unit that you can refer to if you get stuck. I'm going to try and send this out, okay? It may have to come in a different email because it's a large file size, but if I need to do that, then that's fine. Here's another worksheet that I'm sending. It looks like it's 3 pages, and again, pretty good. Got some basic shapes. Some of these are a little bit hard to understand, so if you need to skip around, go for it. And let's see. This is a 5-page packet, prisms and cylinders. So again, just more practice. These are the ones where it's got the answers at the bottom. The little bubbles, it's got some word problems, so that's a good one. And then, okay, that's the reference sheet. So where should we start? How about this one? Start with number 1. So first off, if you don't know these shapes, you need to learn to recognize the different shapes. So number 1 is a cylinder. Okay, so take a look at the cylinder, maybe draw it out. If you already know volume or feel like you have a good idea of how to do it, go ahead and pause the screen and work number 1 out. Maybe go ahead and do number 2 as well. Okay, and then come back,